welcome to yet another episode of the After Movie Diner. And I am sat here again in the Kellogg's Diner on Lorimer Street, near Lorimer rather. It's on Metropolitan and Union in the fair borough of Brooklyn, the neighborhood known as Williamsburg.
And yes, there are people here with silly hats.
Yes, there are indeed, as is the wont of the Williamsburg. Williamsburgite.
Yes.
The local intelligentsia, as your mum used to call them. So, sitting with me, as always, is the everyone's favourite bullet-headed comedy spouting monkey face.
Monkey? Bullet-headed monkey is probably leave out the comedy. Madly ears? When did that? Is this because I don't have any hair?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now my ears are mad.
An Adam's apple that could have its own postcode. I don't know. I'm just being insulted.
No, that's fine. Yeah, you're just looking at me and describing my physical features in the most insulting way.
In the most insulting way? No. Sat with me, as always. His friend,
an ugly pillar.
Friend, and ugly shaved-head monkey pillock.
Yeah.
James Wallace.
Thank you.
Jim Wallace. Jimsy.
Thank you for having me.
Jim. Flim flammery. And
what's brisket again?
It's kind of like, what is brisket? Well, it's like chunk of barbecue meat kind of stuff. Just like chunky meat. Why don't you tell the listening several what we just watched?
We just watched Lucio Fulci or Fulci? Fulci. Lucio Fulci.
Fulci.
If you keep saying it, the more you say it, the more it sounds like an unpleasant sexual act.
Lucio, I've been Fulci.
Fulci's The Black Cat.
The Black Cat.
The Black Cat.
Liberally and loosely based on Edgar Allan Poe's story.
I don't remember the story. I have read it, but I don't remember the story well enough to know exactly. I'm pretty sure he didn't set it in an English village. I'm pretty sure photography didn't play a role.
Right. I don't know about that, just because in both adaptations, or certainly cinematic adaptations that I know of, which is this one and the Romero Argento Two Evil Eyes, both feature a photographer.
Huh. Maybe the original had like a speed painter.
Was Poe like completely and utterly before the era?
I don't know. I'm assuming maybe. Like, what are we talking? 1800s, right?
Right. I guess so. Then.
Wouldn't they have to stand very still? I don't know. Thank you very much.
Oh, I see what you mean. Maybe they're like I don't know. I haven't read the story. I don't read.
Like one of those crime speed painters.
I don't read. I just watch movies.
Yeah.
I assume that when Edgar Allan Poe wrote it, he wrote it about an American tourist visiting a quaint little English village to photograph some tombs or some such. And I assume that's what he wrote, and I assume everything in the movie was completely accurate to the story.
It was.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Including mad old people in houses with slick back hair and faces like slapped condemned veal, wandering around in corduroy jackets.
I'm kind of
slithering at a cat. I presume that's what it was all about.
Yeah, well, probably.
I'm assuming a lot, but then I'm not particularly bright, as you know.
No, that is very true. It's like it's too true.
It's
uncomfortably true. I find myself feeling uncomfortable with how true it is that you're an idiot.
That I'm not particularly bright. Yeah. What are you thinking of food-wise?
Well, I'm thinking of the brisket taco. Shredded brisket with. I need to find out what pico de giallo is.
Every single.
I'm assuming some kind of sauce.
Every single American just bristled, as you said, brisket taco in the most English way possible.
What? Brisket tacho? What am I supposed to say?
I think they say taco.
Brisket taco. All right. Brisket taco. I think that's what I'm gonna have. But I'm gonna find out what pico de giallo is. Is what I'm thinking.
Pico de gallo.
Oh, is that what that is? What is it?
Yeah.
Do you know what it
Kind
is?
of like, what is it?
Honestly,
Kind
he's
of
only
like-
lived in Brooklyn a little while, and he already knows what it is.
I knew what it was before.
Yeah, whatever.
It's kind of
they
like-
probably put the cover of the hats in it or something. Is it hat treatment? Is it? Is that what it
Hat
is?
treatment.
Okay.
When I lived up in Washington Heights, they had it on stuff.
When did you live in Washington Heights?
I lived there for a month at Nick's place, and there was there's a taco place across the road, and they had it.
All right. So what is it? Tell me what it is.
It's a combination of tomatoes, onions, and other such things. Sort of like a salsa without sauce.
I might still give it a go, because I do like the sound of it. I'm going to give it a go. Sod it. I'm going to give it a go. What the hell? We only live once. So, do you want to talk about the Black Cat?
Sure.
Should we talk about the plot, such as it is?
Well,
Or should we start off with, should people want to... Well, do you want to talk about the background of why we're watching it?
sure. It's another Arrow Blu-ray release sent to me by the wonderful folks at MVD and Arrow Film USA.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Clint Weiler, who is the name of the
Clint.
guy who mails me stuff.
Yeah.
And it's one of their recent-ish releases, come out in the last few months, probably readily available online, I would imagine.
Probably.
I don't know if it's their first Fulci release. I know that Anchor Bay, for example, has released other Fulci in other territories, and there's even like a box set of all the Fulcis you can pick up. So I don't know how this one broke the bonds of rights and found its way with Arrow, but it did, and it's an excellent Blu-ray. It looked very good.
It did.
Like it was well cleaned up. I am presuming it's uncut. As it didn't seem like there was any major stuff cut out. It seemed to be completely fully uncut. As is, for example, the Blue Underground release of Zombie is also uncut.
Did you ask if I'm a virgin?
And that's why we were covering it, because we want to cover some of the Arrow Blu-rays that I've been sent.
Yes.
And review them for people. And there's a bit of a backlog. You'll find that I've written some reviews. There's a review up online at theaftermoviediner.com that I've done of Sheba Baby and of Pray for Death. I also plan to do a film which we've covered before, I believe, Rage of Honor.
I don't know if
We at least watched it anyway together, the Shokasugi one that you really liked. I think I covered it on Dr. Action.
Right, okay.
But Arrow sent a Blu-ray of that, which you can hear me cover on Dr. Action, but also I'll be writing a review of. A couple of others that will be coming up soon. Society, which I've seen before, so I'm going to probably just write a review of that one. But all's good. It's all good. It's Arrow. It's wonderful. I would definitely suggest people pick it up if they are a fan of Fulci or Poe, or just, I thought, and go with me on this, I thought it was what I would call an unconventional slasher, meaning that there isn't no one's killing anyone with a knife, and there's not some guy in a funny outfit, but the movie is very much set up as here are some people, and then for the first 2 or 3 kills at least, it's set up, kill, with the ending then building up to the reveal of what's actually going on and why the cat is doing what it's doing and so on and so forth.
Do we ever find out why the cat's doing what it's doing?
Yes. He explained it at the end.
Oh, okay.
We won't spoil it for people because I want people to go out and buy and watch it, but
All right, well, let's get to
there
it
is
at
an
the end.
explanation and we
let's
can
get
talk
to the
about
end.
it at the end. But basically I felt like it was set up and structured very much like a slasher.
I felt it was more like it's a lesson in it's almost impossible to make a cat look scary. That's what I thought it was. There was an awful lot of shots of a cat and people going, "Woo!" But it's a cat, and it's not it's just a cat that walks up to them, and then you get a close up on the yellow eyes.
Right.
But it is very difficult, really,
Unless
to
it's
make
an
a cat look
animated
scary.
cat. Unless it's an animated cat where you can animate it with all its shoulders hunched and its hair all up on one end. Because when a cat actually gets either territorial or scared or whatever.
Good, thanks.
I don't know that. But go ahead.
Well, okay. I'm going to get the. The brisket tacos. And a cup of chamomile tea as well, please. Thank you very much.
And I think I'm going to go for the chicken fingers, please. What dipping sauces do you have?
It comes with honey mustard.
Okay.
Would you like ranch or blue?
Yeah, could I get the honey mustard but also have a side of ranch with that, please? And they're just regular chicken fingers, they're not spicy hot or anything. No, okay, cool. And could I get the cheesy fries with the gravy, like the disco fries or whatever you call them, with cheese and gravy? That'd be great, thank you. And I think I'm good with water. That's great.
Thanks
Thank
very
you.
much. Cheers, man. Yeah, okay. So, look, I understand what you mean about the unconventional slasher.
No,
right?
I was going to say just quickly.
Sorry.
When a cat actually gets in like attack mode or protective mode or whatever it is,
Right.
in reality,
Right.
like cats are scary because they get all up, like their shoulders all get up, like they get up on their hind legs, the shoulders go up, and their fur stands on end, and they do hiss, like they really hiss, and I would imagine that it just would have put whatever cat they had doing this into too much distress to permanently have it in that state. So, yeah, it never, although there are some bits where it like shows its teeth and like mews at him, there's no bit where the cat actually acts like a cat would if it was about to pounce and attack.
Yeah, but my problem's a bit more fundamental than that.
Because that would have actually been
I understand
scary.
that, look, cats can be spooky.
Right.
Cats can be like, ooh, you know?
Right.
They can be harbingers of, doom or fate or death,
Right.
whatever. Those things are all acceptable because they can look kind of spooky.
Right.
But it's very difficult to have a bloke, right? Like a grown man,
Right.
like cowering and freaking out because like a cat's attacking him. Like,
But you see, I think actually in the couple of scenarios where that was the case, because there's a couple of scenarios where the cat affects the environment around the person and that kills them. So in the case of the two lovers in the boathouse, it was because it cut off the air and it escaped with the key.
Right.
And in the case of the woman in bed, it burns down the top level of her house. Right. So in other words, what I mean is, where the human being is not being terrorized by the cat, but the cat's actions causes environmental things to attack the human. Right.
right.
But then there was a couple of scenarios, the drunk guy
Yeah.
and the policeman, where the cat is meant to be menacing.
Thank you very much.
And what I actually think, and why I actually would go against your criticism just a little bit, although I know where you're coming from,
Yeah.
I actually think that with the idea of the cat being everywhere the person looks, and the way that each sequence was sort of built up, and the way that the editing was done, and the quick cuts were done, and the shots were done, I actually think that Fulci did his damned hardest, his damn best, to try and make, maybe not the cat itself threatening, but the scenario and the, freaking out ability. Like, when the guy with the drunk was being pursued by the cat,
Right.
and he threw a rock at it and the cat went away and he was like, oh, okay, then I'm just going to stagger off, right?
Right.
And then the cat started to appear in all these places, and then he got more and more freaked out by it, and then the cat's appearing in all these other things, and the cat kind of leads him to this precarious situation.
Right.
I enjoyed the sequence. Was the cat itself sort of menacing and terrifying? No, but the way the sequence was built and edited and constructed, I thought it was as good as some guy in the shadows with a knife on.
Yeah. I take your point, but
But I also take your point. I know what you mean. At no point was I ever scared of the cat in the film.
and it was impossible to get away from
It's a little black cat.
how artificial the construct was. As in, you can be scared in a moment, and you can say, "Oh, don't go in the, don't go into the." I mean, even if you're watching a silly slasher film, you go, "Don't go into the forest because, for God's sake,
Right.
look behind you." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even in a detached, ironic, this is a silly slasher film kind of a way, you can still
Get involved. Right,
but at no
right.
point did I feel like I was watching anything other than, them artificially making it seem like the cat was attacking, or filming the cat in, what amuses me about the film is thinking about how because I imagine that Lucio Fulci is an extremely peculiar, very passionate Italian bloke, right?
Right.
And the idea of him spending, 2 months of his life literally herding cats
Yeah.
amuses me. I like the idea of him,
Which he did, by the way. He directed this as a favour to the producer. It was not his intention to ever do a Poe adaptation.
Oh,
He
right,
did it
okay.
as a favour to the producer.
Well, I'm guessing the producer probably paid. Do you know what I mean? I can just imagine Fulci on set screaming at the cat. Do you know what I mean? The
Yeah.
cat's become his nemesis. You know
Right.
what I mean? Because he's trying to get a shot where all the cat has to do is walk down the corridor and trying to make the cat walk down the corridor.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? This
Yeah.
like angry Italian. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
The cat is killing me. I'm being
yeah.
killed by this cat. You know what I
No,
mean?
that's true, and I think that's why he...
And that's what I kept thinking about all the way through the movie, because even when the cat's like attacking and clawing, it wasn't anything except like a bit silly.
Yeah, and I think
You know what I mean?
that it also wasn't helped by the fact that the movie has one of the most schizophrenic soundtracks. Meaning, like,
Yeah.
there's very little in the movie where the soundtrack is actually enhancing the horror of the situation. Like, most of the time, the soundtrack is an oboe or a, like, clarinet going...
Was he-
And it's sort of...
Because
was a bit
it sounded like he was trying to do like he was trying to do. I think the point of the music was like English country kind of folky
Right.
music,
Right.
Only done by an Italian. It's like an Italian horror music
Do you know
film
what
composer's idea of comforting English folk music.
Yeah,
So
and you could
weird.
look. You could quite honestly say that, like, maybe he was trying to do a Wicker Man thing. You know how, like, the Wicker Man is full of sort of folky pipes and
Yeah, okay.
strings and
Is
all
this
that.
pre or
kind of-
post
Oh,
Wicker Man?
post, way
Really?
post. Yeah. This was like 1980, 1981.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Whereas Wicker Man is what, 60s, early 70s?
70s, I think. Wicker Man.
It's probably a good 7 years, if not almost a decade later.
Okay,
than
all right.
Wicker Man.
Was this
And-
but like were there a lot of horror films being made in England, like Living Dead at Manchester Morgue? What's that?
Well, Living Dead at Manchester Morgue, yeah, that's a 70s Spanish, Italian, English.
But that's
co-production.
like a decade before this one as well. So it's not as if
It's not
there's,
a
like,
decade. No, it's about 5.
It's not as if the audiences in America are screaming, "For God's sake, what we need is cat-based horror films in English villages."
No. I don't think that at all. I think that chances are the producer came to him and went, "Listen, I've got a little bit of money and I've got a little bit of like British actors and I've got this little village that's agreed for me to do." Like the producer probably came to him and gone, "I've got this stuff.
Right.
Will you do this for me?" Or like, don't forget. Okay.
I think
No.
that-
But
I think for the
let
rest
me-
of his-
let me
sorry.
let me just
Okay.
explain a little. Something
Yep. You
as
should
well.
explain away.
Just in the same way that Lucio Fulci's Zombie was quote-unquote inspired by the films of George A. Romero, and in fact sold in Italy as Zombie 2, as a sequel to George A. Romero. And the fact that, things like Mad Max comes out and then suddenly the Italian schlockmeisters kind of roar into production a whole bunch of post-apocalyptic people in weird clothes driving around a gravel pit kind of movies, of which there are many. I think that you could equally argue that
Hammer?
all through, not so much Hammer, but the API films of Price and Corman doing the Edgar Allan Poe adaptation.
Oh, okay.
You could argue as well, like, there are nods in this movie to Hitchcock. In fact, two very obvious nods
Yeah,
to
okay.
Hitchcock.
Yeah.
One with the bats attacking her, and one with the using the camera to deflect the cat, like he does at the end of Rear Window. And there is, I think, if you're going to say the soundtrack's kind of inspired by anything, let's go with, that kind of Wicker Man, folksy English,
Okay. No, yeah,
sort of
that all makes
Celtic
sense.
pagan thing.
So in terms of what they were ripping off, or attempting to, okay, not ripping off, but cash in on, like you say, the Vincent Price, Corman, Poe adaptations, that's about the right time for all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, again, this is about maybe 5 or 6 years later, but also I don't know the release history of those movies in Italy. It may be that they came out at the end of the 70s in Italy and didn't come out a
Right.
decade before like they
Yeah,
did
because isn't
here.
it Mask of the Red Death? That's like 60s, isn't it?
Yeah. So I don't know. And I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like,
No, it makes
there's
sense.
enough in this
It makes
movie
sense.
that seems to be madly borrowed from a bunch of other places.
Right.
I don't think it's a big leap that the producer went, you know, what have we not plundered yet in terms of American and or just English Gothic horror or horror in general? Well, we haven't done this. How can we make this gruesome and Fulci-esque? And I think that's why I equate it to a slasher, in the same way that Fulci's zombie movies and Fulci's slasher movies and Fulci's horror movies in general are known as gore fests and exploitation and extreme and violent and all the rest of it.
This didn't have much of that to it, though. It wasn't terribly extreme.
but there, I mean, the sequence where she's set on fire, I presume, is the one.
Well,
where
that was a pretty
people
good
are
sequence,
talking
but again,
about,
okay. So one of my big problems with it is
we
that,
still haven't explained really what's going on. But
well,
okay.
yeah, but I mean, look, let's. So until the end, all you really know is that there's a black cat going around a small English village killing people. That's it. That's
And well,
that's all
and
there is.
there's a medium and or psychic and or weirdo living in a mansion who communes with the dead.
He's trying to commune with the dead.
and has some connection with the cat.
Yeah, but what it is, we don't know. But as far as the plot goes, it's a black cat in a small English village running around killing people. And one of my problems with it is that the cat is clearly capable of controlling people's minds, right? And it can make them crash cars.
No, it didn't.
And it can make them wander into traffic.
It didn't make. No, it didn't. What it did is it can hypnotize them.
Right.
To the point where they then
They
he
are
let
in
go of the
danger,
steering wheel, and that crashed the car. And then he was.
Lovely.
He
Wow,
was.
look at the sound of that. Lovely.
That's
Smashing.
amazing. Look at
Thank
that.
you very much. Magic.
Great. Thanks,
This is
man.
great. Thank you. Wow, this is terrific. I'm going to eat this with a knife and fork.
I think that in the case of the policeman, I believe that not only did he sort of scratch up his face, therefore his face was full of blood, but also I think he hypnotized him to the point where he was kind of just paralyzed or dazed in the middle of the road.
Okay.
I think that's what happened.
Okay, fair enough.
That's how I interpret
I suppose my problem is that most of the death scenes were not terrifically imaginative, and definitely not very well. That cheese fries, this is a great diner.
Yeah.
Not terribly realistic, and not very scary. So I wasn't really sure, like. The young couple that get suffocated by they get locked in a room and a pipe gets torn off an air conditioning unit, and so they are poisoned to death and their skin decays. I'm not sure that's a thing. Do you know what I mean?
They were eaten by rats. You hear him say as they go into the thing that the rats would have gnawed through the floor to eat them because they would have smelt the decaying bodies.
Jesus Christ. I can't believe you had to say that on my first bite of my delicious taco.
Sorry, dude.
But you see what I mean? Like, that wasn't realistic.
Right.
And the idea, and I feel like that.
The foaming from the mouth. Yeah, you're right. I don't know where that comes
But
from.
it was all I did. They were poisoned because of this air conditioning unit had been broken. And I just think, given that you're already talking about that the cat is, as we say, not especially threatening. The fact that it's bumping people off in not terrifically believable ways only undermines your case. If it was doing things that conceivably a cat that had the power of hypnosis could actually kill you,
Right.
that might be a bit scary. But how is a cat that
Well-
can? How is it? Because it breaks into someone's house and then it pushes like an electric lamp over.
No,
and
it's
then,
not. It's a gas lamp or oil lamp or whatever. It's what it's meant to be. I mean, that's why it bursts into flames.
Oh right, okay. But the drunk guy is like, oh, I'm running away from a cat. All right, fine, you're running away from a cat. I know what I'll do to run away from this cat. I'll take I'll walk across a floor full of spikes on a tiny plank to get from one side of a barn to another to get away from a cat.
No, but it's that
I don't care how drunk he is.
you're forgetting, dude, that in that sequence, everywhere he turned and everywhere he tried to go, he saw the cat. Like the cat seemed to be in multiple places at once.
Okay, right. But even so, nothing would induce me, well pissed, to walk across a very narrow bit of wood.
I think no. See, I think you're being. I think slightly you're being unfair. I understand where you're coming from, but I think you're being slightly unfair.
No, but I'm saying while I'm watching it, that's how I'm feeling. I'm feeling like I don't believe this, and I'm not saying. Well, Jesus, it's a film about a homicidal cat, which is never completely explained. So.
It was, but look,
all right, well,
you must have zoned out at that point. It wasn't.
Okay, fair enough. We'll get to the explanation. But even so, it's a film about a murderous cat in a village. That's fine. It doesn't have to be like the greatest thing ever. But I just felt like there's scope to do fun things with a cat that can hypnotise people, with a malevolent cat that wants to kill people. And I didn't really understand, like, there was no real logic to it. It wasn't just causing mayhem for the sake of it, but it also wasn't like bumping people off that were a threat to it either. It was just
No, but dude, okay, this is because you all missed the bit at the end.
Fine, all right, yeah, explain it to me. Yeah, thank you.
Basically, the old dude, right? The medium, the guy who communes with dead people.
Right.
The town loon, basically.
Right.
The town has like turned themselves all against him. Like the whole town is against him. They talk about him in like hushed, crazy tones, right? And they're fearful of him. And he explains that he's like hidden out, because at one point they say, "Oh, why do you do that like in secret or whatever?"
Right.
And he's like, "Oh, because people talk about me or people like despise me or whatever it is." And then at the end, he talks about how living with this cat for as long as he's lived with the cat.
Right.
It wasn't that he was like psychically communing and or controlling the cat, but it was more that the cat, which is a malevolent soul, like the cat is possessed of a malevolent soul, but the cat has lived with his burning hatred and frustration and resentment for being like ostracized by this community. That the cat is going out and enacting the revenge that he does not have the will or capacity to do so. Because the cat has lived with his like seething resentment this whole
Hang
time.
on. So who's the bloke in the car at the beginning? The first bloke the cat bumps off. Who's that?
Just a guy in the town. They're all just people in the town.
Oh, I see. So the cat's just going out killing people.
But it's based on his like, because he's able to communicate like with other beings or with other souls or with other what. He is radiating this like seething frustration and hatred the whole time the cat's living with him. And the cat like takes it upon itself to start like a malevolent retaliation against the town, basically. No, is it the greatest explanation? No, but it's like that's what it's meant to be. It's meant to be. You're meant to think throughout the story that maybe he's like hypnotizing the cat and the cat's doing his bidding, but it's not that. It's the cat is the malevolent.
Yeah, but okay. So again, I never thought that for a minute because of the way he reacted to the cat from the start. I assumed that. At best, I mean, okay, what I thought was going on, and why perhaps I missed that explanation.
He's a really good.
Yeah, my attack is amazing. What I thought was going on was that in communing with the dead, he had somehow brought back a malevolent spirit, so malevolent, in fact, that it possessed his cat. And initially, he'd had some kind of control over this arrangement,
right?
But that control had broken down. And now the cat, the malevolent spirit, was just going around killing people because it was a murderer and always had been. As you know, it was an evil spirit that belonged, dead.
Right.
But instead, because also, yeah, right, okay, somehow he's infested the cat with, murderous rage or whatever, assuming that rage is catching. But even assuming that is the case, why is the cat able to like vanish and disappear and reappear? Or where's that come from?
I don't think it can.
It did. Right at the end, it like went pop. The camera was on it, and it popped out of existence, and then went pop. It was really weird.
Oh, I missed that.
Oh yeah, the camera was trained on the cat, and the cat goes pop and disappears, and then it appears with another pop, and the woman's looking at it, and it's like, oh my god, the cat really can vanish. It's not just spooky old cat.
Oh well, no, because by that point the cat was dead.
So it's a ghost cat.
It's like a ghost zombie cat. Yeah.
Right, the zombie ghost cat.
Yeah.
All of this is like, it's not that it. Okay, no.
By the way.
But wait.
Okay.
Here's
I don't want to. This is becoming one of those things where we like focus on one thing. But yeah, carry on.
No, I'm not focusing. No, I'm saying I agree with you. Right? I enjoyed that it was quite a silly idea, but like stuck to rigidly, and I liked. There's some very cool bits in it. The cat jumping down from the wall onto the road to follow the guy, and it's from the cat's point of view. That was really neat. There's lots of stuff like that. The scene where the house burns down, regardless of how that comes to be, the actual way that went about happening was really cool, and the practical effects of the woman burning alive, albeit
Obviously
obviously
dummy,
phony,
right.
but still quite affecting and very cool.
Yeah. I mean, okay.
So there's a lot, and I'm
First,
saying I liked it. I liked watching it, and I think in terms of like a late night B movie horror, it's really really good. And I'd be if I'd seen that on on Channel 4 at 4 a.m. or whatever, or on a midnight screening, I'd be very happy because it's silly and it's fun and it does the job. But there was too much of it all the way through that I didn't really believe. And I'm not just talking about the central conceit of whether the cat, because you can tell me anything. You can tell me that Jack the Ripper's come back as a cat, like that's fine. I don't really give a shit. You know what I mean? But just pick something.
Cat the Ripper.
Pick something.
Cat the Ripper.
Cat the Ripper. Pick something. But then, and in picking something, like then you can have fun with that. Do you know what I mean? But because they didn't pick anything until the end, and it was like, oh, he's lived with an angry old man for so long he's gone out killing people. Right? Even if that was the case, then you could have you could have reverse engineered it, as it were, and have the old man being like yelled at by people, and then have the cat go out and kill that person, and then that thing you're talking about is like, well, is the cat being controlled by him or is it not? Well, that's alive then.
No, I get
it's
it.
Like,
I get
and that
it.
would have been kind of cool, but there was no like. It just went around killing random people for no particular reason.
But also, I mean,
and I think what you're saying about Fulci doing a phone to the producer, like that's my problem with the film. I don't know how engaged he was in it as like an entire project.
Right.
I think bits of it interested him, but not all the way through.
okay, so I think Fulci is a bit of a like hack schlockmeister, but he has the benefit of a few like decent ideas that are genuinely his, like all the eye work and all the eye play.
He
like
is really crazy about the eye.
He's known for
but
filming
isn't that ripping off Sergio Leone then?
I mean, maybe, sure, you could probably make that leap, but he
Hammer
also
films, Hammer always with the strip of light across people's eyes in the early
right,
Hammer films.
but and that's also like a technique that's used throughout Gothic horror films, but he's almost obscenely perverse about the eyes.
Yeah.
Like, especially the old man's eyes, which were yellow and rotten and awful and scary.
I'm pretty sure he
filthy
deliberately poured yellow liquid into that guy's eyes to make them look more yellow, because in some of the close-ups there was clearly yellow liquid leaking from his eye.
Yeah.
And Fulci went, it is great, it looks like a tears, it looks like the tears of a sick man, sick tears, diseased tears. But actually, it's some poor old man actor hard up for a paycheck, having some mad Italian director squirt God knows what into his eyes, in the name of, you must look more yellow, you must look more sick.
But it was... But whatever you can say about Fulci and whether his ideas are ripped off or whether they're just whatever, he executes them exceptionally well, right? The cinematography and the lighting and the like trying to fill everything with sort of smoke and mood and atmosphere and whatever was really engaging. Now, the pacing isn't engaging. The pacing was very slow. The script like the script was sort of
All over the place?
no, it was episodic, meaning like you would get some scenes where there would be like a lot of talking, and you would be like, oh, I'm enjoying this a little bit, and then there would be like hours where there was nothing. But this benefits from two things. It benefits from, excellent cinematography and a bunch of like bonkers, perverse ideas about eyes, which he just films everybody's eyes. Like, he could film the entire sequence just on her eyes, crazy old eyebrow eyes, and the cat's eyes.
Yeah.
And the fact that you had, like, some actors with some genuinely, like, interesting and bonkers faces. Like, the lead guy, who's, like, plays the crazy old man, Patrick McKee, not to be mistaken for Patrick McNee, as we did. He was in Sir Henry at Rawlinson End. He's in Hawk the Slayer. Like, he's in a bunch of those. We need obscenely
We need some bushy eyebrows, yeah.
We need a tombstone-faced, slap-condemned, veal-faced, bushy eyebrowed, mad Englishman to come around and look like he's,
Harbinging your doom.
Harbinging your doom, and his chin's about to fall off into his porridge. And he's Patrick's your man.
Yeah.
Now, very interestingly, the part was offered to both Peter Cushing, right, who turned it down apparently because Fulci had, even by early 80s standards, reputation of doing horrific gore, and Cushing didn't really want to be a part of that, even though arguably Cushing's been a part of, like, not horrific gore, but like some pretty, like, sleazy material in his time, but was also offered to Donald Pleasance. Now, as awesome as Patrick McKee is, or no, actually, let's go back a bit. As awesome as Peter Cushing and Donald Pleasance are, and they are by far, if you're talking about like gothic British actors, like, they're my boys.
Right.
I actually think like Patrick McKee like made the role his own. Like, I can't quite. I can maybe see Pleasance in the role. I can't see Cushing in the role. I know what they're going for with Cushing. It's like the lone old guy who's living in the thing.
I would say that had it been Cushing, I think Fulci would have been more interested in the old man and what was going on with the old man and what the old man's connection to the cat is. As it is, I think what happened is what Fulci's interested in is, as you say, the set pieces and how to make them work and how to make them fly. And I think he probably was. I'd be amazed if he wasn't driven around the twist by that cat. Like, you have to be, right? The cat's in nearly every frame of the movie. And trying to get a cat to do anything is impossible. The bit where the cat's opening the door, you can blatantly see it's eating something.
Right.
Like they've spread some tuna on the door handle.
And there's actually a famous goof in this where at the very end, during the sequence where it's tormenting Jill in the catacombs of that house.
Right.
That you actually see like a handler's
You pointed
hands
that out,
either side of its back hind legs.
Yeah, so I think that's, and I think had Cushing been involved, you might have been a bit less concerned with the cat, a bit more concerned with Cushing. But if you're leading guys, like, whatever Fulci is, like, he knows, what side his bread is buttered. You know what I mean?
Right.
And if you've got Cushing, then you're going to make sure that Cushing's going to get plenty of screen time.
But Patrick McGee was like...
It was very good, don't get me wrong, but it became a different movie.
But he's also sort of obscene. Like, there was one bit where he was hypnotising Jill, who's the American photographer who just happens to be there, like, photographing.
Well, that was a weird... What is she doing in that movie?
And gets embroiled. Mimsy hairpiece.
Her name is Mimsy.
Right.
Right, the actress's name is Mimsy, and I've never seen anybody more accurately named.
Right.
She was an exact cross between young and middle-aged. Like, I couldn't tell which one she was. She had a ridiculous bowl haircut.
They might have gone, get me someone who isn't Mia Farrow, but is maybe Mia Farrow. You know what I mean? Like, it was that kind of...
Well, ultimately, she's unbelievably unremarkable looking. She's an unbelievably unremarkable actress. And I thought, well, maybe she's American, though. That's what they've got, because they need an American face.
She was meant to be American.
She was meant to be American.
Yeah. Her accent was all over the place.
But she's not American. She's clearly Italian. So what the hell is she doing in the movie?
So was the So was the local town copper with the mustache and the hair was so very obviously Italian as well.
Really? I thought he was English.
No,
Was
no,
he
no,
Italian?
no, no. He was clearly Italian from the look. And also because he was like one of the heavily dubbed ones.
Oh yeah, okay.
I think that the detective who came down from London, the one who ended up getting clawed, the one that I realised, especially towards the end, so desperately wants to be Roger Moore, it's hilarious.
Right, yeah. No, I was getting a James Bond vibe off
He
it.
was like budget Moore to the max. Like he was as sleazy as Moore was. He was trying to do that voice. Like he was talking a bit like.
But again,
Moore.
but I wonder if that wasn't deliberate. If Fulci is ripping off everything English he can think of.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's lovely. Thanks for me. It's great. If he's ripping off Hitchcock and Vincent Price movies and all the rest of it, why not like get your leading man to be a budget Roger Moore?
But imagine this had been Moore versus Pleasance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
No, that would have been amazing. Yeah, Moore versus Pleasance.
and they'd managed to get like a slightly scarier looking cat.
I just think the
As
whole
it is, there were sequences in this movie
Yeah.
where the cat was literally lying down going, no, I'm not getting up. And she just filmed it.
Another
having
thing is,
him
like,
in the scene.
it's a bit like Hand of Baskerville, right? Which is
Yeah, it is a lot like Canada.
the idea of being chased down by an enormous ghostly dog is dead scary. And the idea of being tricked, essentially, because that's what's cool about it. These people are being tricked to death by a cat. You know, like basically by a trickster demon is what's happening.
Right.
And that idea in itself is scary. That you are nothing more from a trick away from death. But you can't. It's just like you can't ever see the Hand of Baskervilles without not being scared anymore at all, right?
Right.
And you can't see a cat tricking somebody to death without thinking, yeah, but not really.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because their immediate reaction is. Their immediate reaction when they see the cat is to be freaked out, as if it's a giant like panther or tiger or something, and everything that follows from that initial terror. But
Right.
all they're really doing is looking at a cat,
Yeah.
and the cat can like look. You know, that they could be waving a mouse
But
in front of the
that's-
camera so the cat's looking at them as much as they like, but it's still a cat watching. Because cats, and this is not like to put too fine a point on it, right? The one thing you realise after you've owned a cat is that cats are stupid. Right? Cats are not intelligent, no matter what anybody thinks. They're not. They're thick as pig shit. They're selfish, but they haven't got a thought in their head except whatever they want right then. So whenever you like have a cat look at a camera, there's no like malevolent glare there. It's just an empty-headed, dumb cat. That's what it is.
Right.
It's very difficult to be scared by that. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, like I say, if you've seen a cat like hiss at a dog or hiss at an otter or hiss at whatever,
Hiss at an otter.
well, I presume like cats would come across an otter and go, I want to kill that.
I'm sure you're right.
I want to
Cats
kill
would
that
hiss
and
at
I
an
hit
otter,
it,
yeah.
whatever. They can be quite like menacing. The trouble is at no point does this cat even hiss.
Right.
Like it doesn't, and yet that's what cats do when they get. So I agree with you, but I think again, maybe the producer thought, well, okay, so we've got this cat, but Fulci's at least going to make the death sequences like gruesome and gory, so maybe the midnight crowd will go, great, it's the Wicker Man meets zombie, and we might as well go along and see it.
Right, but did you think the burning alive scene, that was pretty good. But the teenagers, the discovery of their body was pretty gruesome, but
Right.
the actual death wasn't.
No, but they were in it for the tip.
The police captain getting hit by the car, that wasn't gruesome. The guy falling onto spikes, that wasn't that gruesome either. It was over in a flash. It was all kind of clean. The cat like clawing at people's faces, that really wasn't that scary either, because the aforementioned you didn't believe it was happening for a second.
Right. I guess so. I mean,
Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it for what it was, and if I'm sure for all the,
alright, by the way, this song that's playing on the radio, every time I've ever been to France or Spain, this is playing at a taverna every single time.
what's the song?
I don't know what it is. It's just like a little accordion thing that's got this like But every time I go
Very
to
difficult,
like
but I'm gonna have to leave the rest of my taco, even though it's
every time I go to like a European like little tavern for dinner, this seems to be playing on the radio for like the last 20 years. I don't know why. Just is.
They probably see you coming.
Yeah, they go, I'll put it on. He likes that one.
Yeah, Cross is here. Get on the naff recording music. But if I have one abiding impression of this film, it is of a mad Italian film director being driven spare by his leading man, who is a cat. I think there's an extremely entertaining movie to be made about Lucio Fulci making this film. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think it would be really fun and funny to see behind-the-scenes footage of Fulci being driven around the twist by a cat.
But do you think he was driven around the twist, or do you think he just filmed the cat and didn't care?
No, you'd have to, because to get the cat to walk down the corridor, to get the cat to stay still, to get it to stay... Like, cats, as well as being stupid, are also tricky buggers, and they won't ever do what you say. They're incredibly bloody minded.
You're talking about Wayne here. You're not talking about all cats.
No. I had cats I had cats growing up. All cats are the bloody same. They're nice to have around, and they're good company, but they're selfish and they're not clever. They're thick. Dogs are clever. Cats are not clever. But anyway, leaving that aside, you cannot get them to do anything you want to do ever. So the idea of getting them to stay still or peek over this thing or whatever.
Right. Pico de Gallo.
Right, pick of the guy. Anyway, I think that would be a fun movie.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, then write it.
Yeah, maybe one day.
Anyway, I mean, was I like enthralled and entertained by the film throughout the whole thing? No. But I couldn't get over watching the House of a Thousand Mad Eyebrows shuffling about in his corduroy jacket. I enjoyed him being generally like ridiculous. And do you know what was going through my mind while I was watching him? I was thinking, is that him? Like, is he just generally like, or does he go, because every role I've seen him in, he's, so like, I wonder if he like looks in the mirror and goes, oh, this time I'm going to jut my chin out and really furrow my eyebrows and really like look ridiculous. But whether that's just him, and Fulci was like, he'll do.
I guess it's probably a little bit just him, right? That after a while you become what it is they're paying you to be.
I guess so.
Okay, would you like
Yeah, no, it's lovely.
No, it was delicious, thank you. Yeah.
check?
Thank you very much. Thanks. Cheers.
So,
I mean, look,
I enjoyed that. I thought, hang on a second.
I'm terribly sorry. I interrupted your summation.
I thought that there were some particularly well shot sequences. I thought the film in general, if it had any production issues, it was the editing at times was slightly sloppy. But beyond that, I thought the filming of it, the director of photography, the set dresser, and so on, did a bloody good job.
Thank you. Lovely, thanks.
And lastly, I had some fun with the acting and the actors. I thought that the thing was well shot, and I thought that like some of the deaths or the sequences of the deaths were, because I'm a fan of slasher films and because of the way they were set up and the way they were done, I found them quite entertaining. Everything else about the plot and everything else that was going on I found pretty tedious, but I felt like the deaths were shot effectively, the movie looked good, and I liked the lunacy of some of these actors, like the English guy who was clearly English because he wasn't dubbed at all, who showed up at the end with the pipe as like the other inspector from London who shuffled down like, you know, greasy pipe Phil just puffing away and being all like, well, I didn't know what's going on at all. Like, he was amazing. Like, I wanted him and Roger Moore clone to like just shuffle around solving crimes. Well, I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, he had a sort of Watson-esque.
And him showing up going,
Roger Moore and
well,
Watson.
I believe maybe we should check out the local photographer. She might know. You know, there was like a lot of that I was quite enjoying. Even though, as you say, she was as bland as a plain biscuit.
I didn't get it. But okay, so my thing is, I enjoyed the idea of it,
Yeah.
and I enjoyed the experience of watching a film that was doing what it was doing.
Yeah.
But my disappointment with it was there was a lot of cool ideas in there that I thought were not underdeveloped. They weren't developed
Right.
into something. He didn't turn those ideas into something scary.
Right.
And things like, I like the idea that he's putting a microphone on gravestones. And look, again, this is hardly explored in the movie at all. But I mean, it's a cool idea. He's an old man, crazy old man, and he's putting. Here's the thing, right? He's putting microphones on gravestones.
Yeah.
And he's recording the voices of the dead, right? That's
Right.
happening in the movie.
Yeah.
And like the possibilities of that are endless,
Yeah.
right? You've got ghosts who want revenge, ghosts who,
Right.
were murdered in
But the
horrible
story is
ways.
called The Black Cat,
No, but I'm just saying. But then,
which they slavishly stuck to.
the cat could have been like one of these spirits, or the cat could have been like some kind of
Vessel. Conduit.
angel of vengeance. You know what I
Sure.
mean? Acting for the. I'm just saying he's
No, I
sitting
get it.
there in his living room with these huge, expensive tape recorders, listening to actual tape recordings of dead people.
Yeah.
And it's like background. It might as well be like jazz music in the background.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like Fulci's idea of jazz music, which is like unbelievably loud screaming.
Right.
But that's what it is. It's background music. And
Yeah.
thinking. Like that, the whole film begins with her finding a microphone, and then he's by the graveyard looking at the microphone, and people are going, "Oh, I saw him put the microphone." You go, well, but that didn't lead anywhere.
No, I think that was purely
Oh no,
so
to
that.
alienate the old man from the village and
No, not only that, but I think it was the microphone thing was purely a device to get them to meet.
I know. That's exactly my point.
Right,
The
they
whole
could have
thing
done
is
more
full of.
with it. Yeah,
It's such a great idea. That's a great idea. The idea of having the old man and the cat having a do they don't they connection. Like, is the cat part of the old man?
Right.
Is it his servant? Like, what's going on there? And that's not really developed or answered or talked about in any real way. Like, you don't ever feel like that the guy's getting enjoyment out of what the cat's doing. But
It was also interesting because we're so used to seeing whether it's the Price Corman Poe adaptations or whether it's Hammer doing stuff that Gothic horror, or indeed like horror written of that era, sort of the Victorian and pre-Victorian eras, that it's always in set in that time. It's always set in the past. It's always a costume drama with horror. You know what I mean? It's very interesting the way that he tried to blend here's a guy in a ridiculous turtleneck and a leather jacket.
yes, but it's
straight
in
down
half.
the
That'd be
neck.
great, thanks.
Here's a guy in a ridiculous turtleneck and a wax jacket walking around being a bit sleazoid, and someone else driving like a MGB midget and all this like 70s stuff. But then also try and like mix in there was a graveyard shot which was like pure Gothic horror, like with a low hanging mist and lots of like Angel of Death gravestones and all the rest of it.
I think,
And so it was interesting to see like a contemporary take on that.
well, I think you're right. I think he went in there and decided, if I'm going to make a film in England, I'm just going to crib from absolutely everywhere and see what we come
Right.
up with. And his, what he's tying it to is this cat wandering around murdering people. But also I think that, like, even if you're just going to do that, even if you're not going to develop the ideas that I'm talking about, although I'm not saying, in order for a film to be good, it's got to develop its ideas. I'm saying in order to make like the death scenes more effective and the
Right.
scares more effective,
Yeah.
like, you need to tie them to something, to some idea of.
Thank you.
Some of these are the ones you're saying.
Thanks.
Lovely, thanks very much.
I think that's mine, dude. This one's yours.
How do you know that?
Because that's James Wallace.
All right. Some of his names.
Yeah, there are names on our cards. So
It's not that that I need things to be pure or narrative. I don't mind things that are silly and make no sense. That's fine. But I like to have a reason for things to be happening, because that's what that scares me and makes me think. It's not.
Right, yeah,
I don't want to be sitting there thinking, "Oh, nice edited shot." I want to think.
no, I get it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and,
I know.
And
I
that's
was
just
never.
me. And that's just me. That's just how
I
I
was
like to watch.
never invested in it.
I like to be swept up in.
And it's
something,
true,
even
like-
silly stuff.
Like, I forget what it was that I watched the other day, which Frankenstein I watched, but I watched one of the Cushing Frankensteins, and even though it like clearly wasn't. Oh, I think it was Frankenstein Created Woman. I think that's what it was.
I haven't seen that one. Don't tell me too much.
No, I'm not going to tell you too much, but like, clearly wasn't like one of the greatest ones. Wasn't the worst one, but it wasn't one of the greatest ones. And there is something compelling about the way those things are done that just didn't exist here. So, like...
Well, there's always a hook. In the Hammer ones, especially when they're talking about Frankenstein and Dracula, the one thing that I've noticed is, even in the later ones, they find something to grab onto, like something that interests the director or the writer or whatever,
right.
some kind of hook.
Yeah.
That even if it's, like in the Revenge of Frankenstein, the hook is like the guy that he, like the ordinary, well not ordinary, but like the hunchback guy that gets turned into like the gets his brain put, and it's like his journey, and the hook ends up being not his journey,
right,
but actually how horribly evil Frankenstein actually is.
Yeah,
and it's given you
but what I mean is it's
the
compelling for a series of reasons.
Right.
Which this isn't. And the other
we
thing,
can talk about these reasons over time.
Right. This isn't, and you're completely right. But this is my example. Okay. Do you remember the London copper turns up on a motorbike, right? He turns up on a motorbike, and the little the mustachioed Italian English
blonde-haired ginger moustache
Claude was like, what are you doing racing around the countryside? And he was all like, I'll do what I want, thank you very much. By the way, I'm also from Scotland Yard. You know what I mean, right? Yeah. That whole sequence, had it been in an American movie, which, let's be fair, like Fulci's career, more or less, and it's not true for every movie, but it's true for like a certain period of his career. Because like, let's take what American does and like try and approximate it, but with other things, and with a slightly different artistic sensibility and European sensibility and blah 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 blah. Right. But let's also try and have like,
but no cats.
Right. But let's also have like the fast talking cop and the whatever it is, right? And yet, everything that you would have in an American movie that would, like, it would be, Will Smith on a motorbike would show up and be like, ba-da-ba-da-ba, quick one-liner, ba-da-da-da, and it would be, like, dynamic, and you'd be like, oh, okay, we're off to the races with this one. This was just a guy who, like, lazily took off his helmet and went, blah.
Can I just say as well?
So what I'm saying is, like, they know what they're imitating.
Yeah.
But they just don't do it particularly well.
No, because I was just going to say
performance or scripting.
Yeah, right after that, the motorbike thing you're talking about, there's a gag right to the end of that scene where the policeman goes, and who shall I send the fine to? Like your speeding fine.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be like, no, only joking. Oh no, I'm actually not joking. I'm writing it down. I can't believe that was the best take of that joke. Like, I can't believe Fulci went there, yep, that's the one. Like, it wasn't... Yeah, I see what they were trying to do, but it was so badly... It was like they'd literally just been handed the script and gone, all right, we'll run through it once, yeah, Lucio? And they run through it just to get the words out. Yeah. And then he went, cut, and now on, because the cat is driving me crazy.
I think...
Well, somebody went, Lucio, the cat's gone away again. It's a fucking cat, and he's run off again. Yeah. And then that's all they've got. They've got like one.
No, I think if there's a summation, it's that the producer and the director of photography were very much engaged in this movie. Nobody else really was.
Not even the cat.
You know what I mean?
Well, to be fair though, no matter what it took, and I'm assuming it took a Herculean effort on the part of, there's probably some poor sod, like the cat wrangler, you know what I mean, on that movie.
Jeff.
A well-scratched cat handler by the time it was over deserved some kind of medal, because he did get the shots. Like, it wasn't that thing... Like,
except at no point was the cat, like...
No, but you're right. Unless you're really going to, like, I don't know, like, prod a BB gun bullets up its arse every time you want it to, like, make it, like, crazy noise.
Right.
Which I wouldn't put past Fulci, like, floating as an idea at some point in the cat wrangling meetings, you know what I mean? But... he did get, like, there was, when it walked down the corridor, it stayed on the wall, it did go where it was supposed to go. So somewhere,
normally
way down that
twee oboe music.
But if we got on the credits further down the list, Cat Wrangler is on there somewhere, and he for sure deserves credit.
Deserves credit, definitely. Yeah. But even, like, along with the mad oboe music, there were even points where the cat showed up that for no reason on the soundtrack. There was like a badoing, and I was like, what are you doing? Like, I'm meant to be scared, and like the cat shows up and goes badoing, and you're like, what the hell is this, Mr. It was like Trumpton or something.
Yeah, it was because that was another thing about the cat, was that you didn't know how you're supposed to feel.
So, okay. So
But I enjoyed
that
the
was
experience of it.
The
And I'm
Black
glad.
Cat by
I'm
Lucio
glad I've
Fulci.
seen.
Probably his laziest movie.
I'm glad I've seen a movie where there is genuine point of view from a killer cat shots.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like there's killer cat POV, and there can't be that many movies where that is a thing.
Right. And there was, there was lots of things in it, but
Yeah, to like, for sure.
if you look at something like Zombie, if you look at something like The Beyond, or if you look at some of his other movies where he's clearly more invested in it because he's like written it and he's, you know,
Well, he wrote this. He wrote it with another Italian.
yeah. But like what I'm saying is, when you see he's invested in it, he can do some genuinely creepy, weird, and wonderful work. House by the Cemetery. I mean, I've covered a lot on. I did a trilogy of Fulci movies on the Diner previously with Philip O'Neill. So if you want to hear about like more atmospheric, eerie, weird Fulci, listen to that episode because actually we cover some stuff. This feels a bit more like he's a bit of a writer-director for hire, friend of the producer. Just thought, all right, I'll knock it off in a weekend.
Yeah.
Kind
Oh,
of.
no, listen, I enjoyed it, and as I say, if I saw it,
Yeah.
late at night on telly, or
Yeah.
if it was, a midnight, it was a midnight showing
Showing,
down the
whatever.
village,
Yeah.
I would go and see it, and I would come out of there going, for what I needed it to be, it did the job.
Right.
But in terms of it being, as good as it could have been, without an awful lot of effort.
Right.
In fact, it wasn't. I don't think it was even a question. Partly it was a question of effort. Partly it was a question of, like you say, engagement.
Yeah.
And if he's not super engaged with what he's doing,
Yeah.
then you're never gonna. It's never gonna be that good.
Right.
It's never gonna be great.
Well, thank you ever so much for discussing Arrow USA release of The Black Cat by Lucio Fulci
You're welcome.
here
Hey,
on
but
the
you
Diner.
should put the.
I would like to.
Sorry, I was going to say you should put the link for your Fulci episode.
I will do
with this
amongst
one.
the folds of this
Yeah.
one. Yeah. But I would like to urge everyone, if they haven't realised, that we have some awesome contributors now to aftermoviediner.com.
Yes, that's true.
So please, while I do my very best on social media, on Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, even LinkedIn, to promote and post these articles, I would urge everyone to bookmark aftermoviediner.com and just check up. There isn't a day goes by where I don't put something up.
Yeah.
Podcasts, videos, bloggers, reviewers, all sorts of great stuff. We did a great list recently of women in genre movies, which got some great. Grant Knock wrote some great stuff about
You got
James
retweeted
Bond.
by.
I got
Phantasm Guy, right?
retweeted by
Coscarelli.
Don Coscarelli because I put up some photographs from the Phantasm remastered screening.
You in fact were Don
South
Coscarelli's
by-
preferred
I was, yes.
host of that event.
of those photos, which was awesome. So yeah, we've been pushing a lot of that stuff, and you can find us all over the place. So I would ask two things: first of all, bookmark it and check up on a regular basis and enjoy it. Secondly, comment, like, share, promote. Like if you read an article and you like it, it's really easy. At the bottom of the article, there's click and share it on Facebook, click and share it on Twitter. There's a place to write comments. There's a place to share it on Google+. There's a place, like, it's really easy. You don't have to, like, leave or do anything fancy or know how to copy and paste anything. Just click the button, hit enter, and share it. Please, that would be amazing. If you want to do more than that for the Diner, and I would hope you would, go to patreon.com/aftermoviediner and sponsor the podcast. Or you can go to miskplumbingfixtures.bandcamp.com and buy any of my albums or single tracks or whatever. Miscellaneous Plumbing Fixtures is also available on Spotify. And lastly, Jem and I would like to urge you to write to us at aftermoviediner@gmail.com or leave us a voicemail over at speakpipe.com.
We will answer.
/aftermoviediner.
If anybody writes and asks us questions, we will answer them, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yep. So you can leave a message at SpeakPipe. You can leave a message at aftermoviediner@gmail.com. You can even call us at 347-669-0053 and leave us a voicemail. All this information is available at aftermoviediner.com. Please support us, please share us, please like us, and keep on trucking. Thanks ever so much for listening.
Bye.
And to end this show, as we end every show with some music. This music is available over at miscplumbingfixtures.bandcamp.com and is off my latest album, Wake Up, It's Not Over Yet. It's called The Ballad of Wayne LeGraw, apparently. And it was recorded with the wonderful Jay Mayo, who you can hear at Hold the Mayo podcast. And I was recently a guest on that. So go over to Hold the Mayo podcast and listen to me on there. Meanwhile, listen to Jay and me play this song. Be my handstand operator on this baby food swing. I got a face full of pancetta and an old wooden ring. You climb up a crooked drain pipe to shake your fists at the dimming stars. Barricade yourself in the doorway of 1,000 shutdown bars. Play grabbage, then counting your chickens. It's your round, after all. Be a cage-raised hater of trumpets. Get down before you fall. I got a backpack full of roses. I got a liver full of bad ideas. Be sure to have your sunglasses on when the dust clears. It's all of the summers you've ever spent wondering where all your money went. It's the orchestra you couldn't get in, to the party that's yet to begin. And the clowns are all waving goodbye from this ghost train cloud-filled sky. I got a dishwasher colored Corvette. I'm gonna drive it all over your town. You can't fight City Hall without breakfast. We should just tear the whole place down. You're a delight at the circus. They sluggishly obey your commands. I've been to worse factories than this one, and still no one understands. You're a closed-down barbershop quartet. There's surrender in the air. Who needs a coat full of Tic Tacs when you've still got all your own hair? He was a plumber way back in the 40s, before the whole thing went high-tech. I want to sit on all of your branches and hope the fall doesn't break my neck. It's all of the summers you've ever spent wondering where all your money went. It's the orchestra you couldn't get in, to the party that's yet to begin. And the clowns are all waving goodbye from this ghost train cloud.